With us now from Philadelphia, William Soliman, who is the Chairman and CEO of the Accreditation Council for Medical Affairs. Thanks for your time today. Just listening to John's report there, it just made me feel like this is something of a Pyrrhic victory. You've got a settlement, you've got $260 million, which will be going back into helping people hurt by the crisis, but no one admitted any guilt here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think really this is a wake-up call to a lot of the pharma CEOs that the old way of doing things needs an overhaul. And we need to look really at the process that brought us here to begin with.
What's the old way of doing things?
The old way of doing things really is that every company has its own way of training and preparing people for going out and educating doctors, and that needs to change. We need to have a standardized, uniform way where everyone that's going out and educating physicians, educating healthcare providers has to meet a minimum standard criteria. Number one. Number two, we need to make sure that if you do something wrong at your company, you're a bad actor, you're involved in something unethical, that information is collected in some type of central database that prohibits you from doing it at another company. We had a situation like that with a company known as Insys Therapeutics, where you had a district sales manager who was involved in a kickback scheme with a physician at his prior company, did the same thing at Insys, got fired, did the same thing at the other company. That needs to stop. You think about lawyers, doctors, if they do anything that's unethical, what happens? They're debarred, they lose their license, right? To prevent them from doing that again. We don't have anything like that in place today in the pharmaceutical industry. So we need to really look at this and say to ourselves, how can we prevent another opioid crisis in the future, something different? This is, to me, just the tip of the iceberg. We need to change.
So is it about regulation, a regulatory body? I'm sure there is a regulatory body already. Or is it about, does there need to be more government intervention to really address the crisis and, as you point out, the way that the companies operate?
Right. I think really, and this is what we do at the Accreditation Council for Medical Affairs, we are all about saying, look, the pharmaceutical companies, for the most part, and by the way, I'm a 15-year veteran of the pharmaceutical industry, and most of us want to do the right thing. But we need to have standards, just like you have standards in any other type of profession. Think about a hairdresser. In America, a hairdresser has to be licensed to cut hair. Not taking anything away from a hairdresser. So the people that are educating doctors, that are helping to facilitate research with physicians at these academic centers, they need to be credentialed centrally. And that's what we do at the Accreditation Council for Medical Affairs. Doctors today, once they graduate medical school, 65% of their education comes from where? It comes from the pharmaceutical industry. So it's really not just a nice to have, it's really something that's an obligation. It's really the right thing to do for our patients and for the public health in general.
And I wonder, just as a final question, if we can bring it back to the people. We use this phrase opioid crisis quite freely. How bad is it for the people in America?
It's bad. It's bad. You're talking about not just the individual patients that are affected and that are addicted to these opioids, but their families, the impact on society, the impact on unemployment. I mean, it has a ricochet and a domino effect, especially in the Midwest part of the country, where you see a greater prevalence of these issues. But I would say across the entire country, it's a major problem. And this is why you're seeing that these states are stepping in and saying something has to be done. And I think it's good that we're making an allocation of some of the money towards these addiction treatment centers, but we need to catch it at the source, right? You need to go back to the pharmaceutical companies and say, okay, look, what can we change? What can we do better? What can we do to raise the bar?
William Soliman, joining us from Philadelphia. Thank you. Really do appreciate your time.